you all for coming. This is our first of at least 2 working sessions for the Conwell Street Bicycle Improvements Project. Runs from Route 6 to Cemetery Road by bike lanes and pedestrian accommodations. Just want to have you all here for it's an informal conversation to provide project feedback relevant to curb cuts or things like that for your direct abutter. So thanks for coming. This is Jim Fitzgerald from the Environmental Partners Group, the design engineer. We're currently at 30% design phase, so by no means is this final. We just want to answer any questions that you have, anything that we could possibly do to lessen impact. Just to said, the more information we have, the better off we are developing this project. So, thank you for coming.
I think an appropriate thing to ask is just to be clear as to what the design actually means for people who aren't in architecture, and then we can start from there.
So basically what we're proposing to do is to provide additional accommodations for bicycles and pedestrians, safer than what's out there right now. Right now the bicycles kind of weave in and out of traffic, and the pedestrians manage to make their own path along the side of the road. Some of those areas are somewhat challenging. You can see on the slope side, for instance, there's a footpath going through the grass. So the goal here is to provide safe accommodations for all modes of transportation. With the pedestrians comes ADA compliance as well. There are signals at Route 6, as you all know, and so this would provide a connection for pedestrians down to the existing pedestrian crossings, pedestrian signals at that intersection for future expansion, so that pedestrians and bicyclists can actually cross over Route 6 to get to the other side.
I think to be more clear on my question is if you can explain that design as to where things are on that design and what things mean on that design to people who aren't interested.
Is there something we're going to see up on the screen?
We opted out of the PowerPoint. We thought we were just...
The one time there's no PowerPoint, so people can see what you're doing.
We actually have.
You can walk up to the table.
Yes, I think we kind of envision this being more of a roundtable discussion to be able to point out certain parts of the plan, whatever you might be interested in. So that's the reason that there was not a PowerPoint. Sometimes the line work can get a little fuzzy up on a board and you can't really see.
That's to assume that people understand what the architectural design means.
Sure, yes.
So
can I just continue? So big picture was what I just said as far as trying to provide these accommodations. So what is the design, what do the lines mean? So what we have shown on plan here is for a 30-foot roadway, okay, that's 10-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bicycle lanes on either side of the roadway to provide 2-directional bicycle accommodations, as well as a 5-foot sidewalk, including the curb that makes the sidewalk 5.5 feet along one side of the roadway.
Are the bikes going to be riding single file or?
Yeah, and you know, and maybe maybe we can kind of step up and I can show you what the plan actually looks like.
Done, whatever, okay, because I mean,
Sure.
I don't see a lot of bike traffic now. I've lived on Conwell Street all my life. I'm a native. I see maybe 7 bikes in the summertime on Conwell Street, if that. Now, I don't know what they do off the bike trail. I don't know if they go down Route 6 and go to Champaign Road. I don't know if they walk their bikes up there. I mean, I understand the whole thing with the ADA and all this other crap, excuse my language, but I don't see the issue here. If it's not broke, why fix it?
And am I clear that this is only up to Cemetery Road?
This is,
So after Cemetery Road, we're not going to be safe anymore. So we're going to make it safe for a couple of blocks, and then we're on our own again.
this is along a wider section of Conwell where
The unsafe
wider
part is
road
the
is
narrower
where traffic-
section.
the speeds
Yes.
actually.
I mean,
I'm sorry, what?
The unsafe part of Conwell was the narrower section
Right.
where the houses are right on the street. So pedestrians as well as bicyclists. And if you have both side by side, the bicycles are in the middle of the street. It doesn't take care of that problem, which is a bigger problem than on that side.
Right.
Sufficient space within the layout.
Right.
Do anything.
So can I just hold on? Okay, so back a few questions ago. So having said that, right now we're focusing on this one section of Conwell Street. The remainder of Conwell Street will be considered at some future date, I would anticipate. Right now, the Cape Cod Commission is doing a study town-wide of all the circulation around town. There may be changes that may afford us additional room to provide those accommodations. That's not clear yet at this point. Right now, the scope is to focus on this one section where right now the right-of-way is readily available for us.
Do we have any idea as to how much people on foot use that walk down Conwell Street and how many people are on bikes? I live on Conwell Street too, and I don't see a lot of people walking around.
I mean, I walk down to get my nail every day in the
As well.
summertime, partially for health, doctor's orders. I work for the town, I work 4 AM to noon, I'm on the trash department. I go down 12:30, I walk down, and I don't see many people walking the street. I mean, I understand this, we're trying to make it better, but in some senses, sometimes a good idea is just a good idea, and that's all it is.
So,
Right now,
when you do walk down Conwell Street, where do you walk?
I walk up,
On
Yes.
what surface?
right on the street. I walk right on the street. If a car's coming, I've been doing this since I was a kid. If a car comes, I just move off.
You kinda go like this.
You just kind of move off, or if I go further down Conwell Street, down past Harry Camp Lane,
There's plenty
I
of.
move up over to the side. I'm usually walking against the traffic. I'll figure a way to get into somebody's yard, not far in, because I don't want to, go into people's property. It's not, trespassing technically, but enough for the car to go by, and then I'll walk down. I mean, I don't think there's an issue here. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
I cannot comment on the amount of pedestrian bicycle traffic along the roadway. We did not take traffic counts. We were scoped to do this project as is. But what I can comment on is from an engineering standpoint and looking at it and walking the project and especially where the road S's around a little bit, it's a little scary for a pedestrian. And
How many times have you walked down that street, honey?
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I'm just saying from the perspective of an engineer, I don't live on that street, you folks do. I'm just saying what it appears to me. Are there pedestrian accommodations there? No, there aren't. But the scope of the project is not an issue with me. The intention of this project was to promote and provide bicycle and pedestrian accommodation.
Well, the problem, as I see it, is we've got the Cape Cod Commission doing something, we've got you doing something. We only have 3 ways into town.
Right.
And what's going to happen is people are going to be, you'll make this improvement as far as Cemetery Road. Now, Cemetery Road is a 2-way street, which is becoming very, very crowded in the summertime.
It's very narrow.
Conwell Street is a nightmare. And, in my opinion, and my office is in the section where you're planning on making the changes, it's like they're gonna be this wonderful section of cemetery of Conwell Street, and then it's just gonna be status quo again. Where are these bikes gonna go? Are they gonna go down Cemetery Road? Are they gonna go down Conwell Street? Where are the pedestrians gonna go? I mean, the town missed an opportunity, in my opinion, by not grabbing Duarte Motors, and they should grab it by eminent domain, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion, because at least you get people, you can make Conwell Street one way from Harry Kemp down towards Bradford, and people get off of Conwell Street into back to Duarte's parking lot. It would be a wonderful way of alleviating congestion on that road. But these improvements, however well-intentioned they are, we're still left with the fact that we only have 3 roads into town. And I'm not sure that with you doing one thing and the Cape Cod Commission doing something else, that we're not, that we're doing things segmentally
Sure.
without doing an overall picture.
So to address that, I met with the Cape Cod Commission on this, and
And we
they,
have to pay them for
They-
that,
they-
by the way, in spite of all the money that we give them anyway to belong, we're paying extra to have them do this work, just like we're paying you, which I'm always subject to, but that's not your problem.
Well, the grant thing,
Yeah, it's,
so
just
don't worry.
to answer
Oh,
your
don't worry
question,
about it.
this is one piece of a puzzle between Cape Cod Commission with their traffic study plans, with the Outer Cape Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, which is working comprehensively throughout the town to connect the National Park Service with the town facilities. And we're, working working with the National Park, who is funding $119,000 out of this project. So this has been in the works since 2000.
And we're only 3 miles long and 2 miles wide, you know, and then there are proposals to put all kinds of signs around town. I mean, this is becoming, I think
Yeah,
we're
can-
overreaching.
I don't want the perception to be that this is being done in a bubble, because it is not. Again, I've met with the Cape Cod Commission on this project, and they fully endorsed this project. They've documented that. They agree that it's well needed, and there is paperwork to show that. As far as the signage issue, people keep mentioning signs. Absolutely, sign clutter is not a good thing. You don't want to put too many signs up randomly. The more signs you put up, the less effective those signs become. So I don't know exactly what the discussion is about signage. I've heard it a couple times now. And I would assume that random signs will not be installed. In a lot of cases, you need to identify which signs are legitimate and which ones are not, and really focus on the ones that are important.
So they call it wayfinding.
Wayfinding is just it's just
stupid
signage to
word.
tell you how to find your way. Yeah, I know. I didn't make it up, I swear.
What,
Sorry.
was there ever consideration with all this bike trail issue coming from Upper Cape down to Provincetown, of just continuing it straight up to Painter Road, which already has the wide access and already has the lanes marked out? I'm trying to figure out why you're coming through Conwell Street when you have a much larger street to work on, 1/8 of a mile up the road.
Actually, that's all part of the network of the Outer Cape Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan. We had a workshop, I think, about a month ago. There are primary, secondary, and tertiary routes of all the available ways to get to Provincetown. And currently, with the bottleneck being Truro, you have 6, you have Mayflower Ave, and you have 6A. And those are all 3 considerations. And there has been discussions of utilizing 6 through there and continuing that artery for the road cyclists that prefer the highway. And in the long run, the intent is that Champaign Road be the main entrance to Provincetown. It's suited for it, it's designed for it, there's also plans to have it be a boulevard of sorts with bike lanes, sidewalks, street trees.
So on the lower end of Conwell Street, starting at Cemetery Road back, that's a secondary route in the eyes of the big picture?
You mean from Cemetery down Conwell during the narrow layout?
Yeah, like you're gonna take 5 feet this way and then make a lane that's 10 feet. There's businesses on that street. I can see this being problematic with pedestrian and bicycles. Because it happens at the end of my property, even without a bike path. If somebody's going to take, say you're heading out of town, someone's going to take a left into either Conwell Condos or Old Ann Page Way. If there's a driveway, the driver's gonna go around it. Now, when you people are designing this design, Mr. Engineer, I guess this one goes to you. Is it gonna be like a bump up sidewalk, higher than the street level where the cars drive, that would discourage drivers from pulling around somebody and using that straight path that the bikes ride in?
So the bicycle lanes are the same grade as the roadway. It's just delineated with paved markings. The sidewalk on that one side does have a 6-inch vertical curb that protects the pedestrian from traffic. And
I know,
that's kind of the conventional
Mhm.
engineered standard.
I can just see that if you open that up more, you're gonna open up a bigger can of worms for bicycles and people. But that's just my personal opinion.
Which side of the street is the sidewalk?
Because,
On the liquor store side,
okay, so there's gonna be the sidewalk and the bike lane on the liquor store side.
yes.
And then there's gonna be another bike lane.
On the other
On
side.
the
heading
opposite
other
side.
direction. Correct. And actually, again, you can, I don't know when you want to show the plans, but we can kind
You
of.
probably do it after questions, I think it
Yeah,
would be
get
so
the
much
questions out, we can all
easier,
come
and
up.
everybody can just go up and do it at their own leisure. I'm in no rush, I got nowhere to go but go home.
Jason.
I have a whole laundry list to go over if you've got the time. I'm the most impacted property on the street. My name's Rob Jason, 29 Conwell Street. First of all, I would like to touch on a bunch of different topics here. One being that in future meetings such as this, that a larger time frame of notification be put out, as I can see a lot of my neighbors are not here. Second homeowners are not here. They're at home in at their other homes. Primary residents, out of state, they're not included in this. Which also brings me to why the first notification myself and my neighbors have received of any bike path or sidewalk project, I received a letter on December 2nd, had never heard anything from the town previously, and the first wind I even got of a slight rumor was from my neighbor Joe here, when I commented on the new grass he put in his front yard, asking if he was going to put bushes or plants in, and I told him it looked great. He lives several doors down from me. You're 31, Conwell? 33? And he said, no, we're holding off until we hear more about this bicycle sidewalk project. I said, what bicycle sidewalk project? This was the first week of September. I went down to town hall, asked the building department. They directed me to Public Works. I spoke with Shari Prada at the Public Works. I did not know her position, but I just read it on the letter a couple nights ago when I was reviewing the letter again. She's the operations manager. She told me she knew nothing about any bike project on Conwell Street or sidewalk project. Mr. Larson informed me when I had a meeting with him last week, this has been in the works since 2009. 2009, and we are engaging the people in the impacted area now? That speaks volumes to me, okay? So, now, I'd like to know exactly what portion of Conwell Street is owned by the state. That seems to be a question of the residents on the street. Some people think it ends at Cemetery Road. Some people think it ends at Bradford. I'm under the impression it ends at Harry Kemp. Is that correct? It goes to Harry Kemp Way, which is the old railroad bed. Okay, I'll get back to that piece in a minute. Up until now, who has paid for this project? Are we talking town funds have been put into it, state funds, federal funds, grants, National Seashore, or a combination thereof?
All federally funded.
Real loud, I'm really bad at hearing you.
All federally funded.
It's all federally funded.
Correct.
The town has paid for nothing so far.
Nothing.
Is the town going to be paying any money into this?
Yes, there's a 25% match from the town during the construction.
Part of it will be, okay, so part of it, so we're talking Chapter 90 money will be used for the project and town money, as well as perhaps other money. And that means it will have to come to town meeting floor?
Possibly no.
If town money's being used, it will, correct?
The money's been, my understanding, pre-appropriated with the agreement with the National Park Service. If we had to come and put an article in front of town meeting for additional funding that we cannot accommodate, yes, it would.
Okay, now the National Park Service is putting money into this on this side of Route 6, which their jurisdiction is, as I understand, the other side of Route 6.
The state actually owns.
I know we had an issue, Mary Jo, I'm sure other people here will remember several years back when they wanted to change the interchange at Herring Cove, and people were in absolute outrage over being ignored. Our opinions fell on deaf ears with the National Seashore when they took out the dip in the road and the 2 lanes and narrowed it to 1. National Seashore took the position of, it's ours, we'll do what we want. Now granted, part of my front yard and part of my side yard is state highway on paper, which is the case all the way down the street. The road was widened on paper to 4 lanes, I believe it was 1919, and then I think there was an adjustment in 1953. So what it appears to be and what it really is, I have an understanding on that, so that's really not an issue. My issue is being kept in the dark by the town, which is, in my opinion, and from what I'm hearing from other people, typical small town politics as usual. Is this the kind of town we want to have? Because I don't see this as being very well handled. Another thing is,
I'm going to leave Dave Campbell, and I'll answer that question if you have a minute.
Pardon me? I'd like to go through this
Okay,
and then.
but if you do want to answer that question,
Yep.
I'm happy to respond to what type of town we'd like to be in about public notice.
Mm-hmm. And you are new here, which is hopefully a breath of fresh air.
When we got here, I cannot speak to anything that happened before I got here.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got here, when I learned of this project, I asked the question about notice. And I am going to keep improving what we do, okay? But we need to have, I'm the one who said we need to have these work sessions. I'm unclear in terms of the timing of the notice that went out, but certainly we're gonna expand that notice timeframe. But I'd also say this, it's a challenge in Provincetown to do public process if all of the residents aren't here all the time. And if it happens that the residents come in March or April, we head immediately into the summer season, then everybody's too busy to have meetings. It is a challenge to figure out when during the year you can actually move projects along or not. So that's always going to be a challenge. You can't really respond perfectly that there's going to be a perfect time in the year to do process. But that said, both by adding the Town Talk page, by doing an outreach to the part-time homeowners, to making sure that we provide notice to abutters, whether it's timely enough. I think everybody, in all my career, I've never heard anybody say, please shorten the time frame on the notice. What I've always heard in every instance is, could you move that back by another week to give us time? I intend to have us continue to improve on that, and I hope that moving forward, because again, I cannot speak to the past, but again, moving forward, that we're gonna have notice that there's gonna be involvement in these things. Involvement in process doesn't always mean that everybody gets everything they want, but it does mean that everybody has a time to be heard, engagement in it, and if modifications can be made that help things move forward, I'm all for that. At the end of the day, there shouldn't be a zero-sum game. At the end of the day, the community needs to be part of the process and buying in, particularly in Provincetown, where the community is the process.
Well, I realize transparency is in your book. And,
so absolutely, I'm with you on that, and I'll apologize for this, but I do wish there was more notice from the beginning, but I can't.
I realize, David, you're new, so Pauline and other people here in the room, I'm sure would back me up when I say that the year-rounders do keep the second homeowners up to speed.
Okay.
Something is heard, we let them know, especially if it's in our neighborhood, or even if it's a change across town, or it's something good, it's something bad, if someone got sick, if someone's in the hospital. We're basically the reporters for our neighbors, because they're our friends and our family too.
Right.
It is a very tight-knit town. Everybody knows or helps one another one way or another.
Everybody knows where I parked last night.
It's a chain, Now, as far as the letter and notification, as I said, the first notice we got of it was, my letter was dated November 23rd. It was postmarked November 25th. Our mail goes to Rhode Island for processing. It came in my mailbox on the 2nd of December. Now, a meeting is on the 10th, so that's very little time. I placed a call to my neighbors across the street in Connecticut, 2 women. The gentlemen who own the condo below them are living and working currently short-term.
Is that, and I hadn't realized we go, should have known that myself. But so, is that normal on a time frame? If I mail a letter across town?
Yes, that's the way the Postal Service works.
It's got to go to Chattanooga.
Hey, no, it goes to Rhode Island. My father worked in the post office for 35 years. Yeah.
I did too, processing.
All right, so in terms of timing to send stuff out, we need to add another 7 days.
I have mailed checks to Boston before, and 14 days later, they have not been received in my bank.
That's good to know.
So, but the other thing is too, I have received notices in the past, such as I believe it was 16 Harry Kemp Way. The woman, Mrs. Reyes, wanted to sell her properties off as condos and do some kind of a convert, I think, from affordable rentals. I get it certified from the town. I say to myself, I believe her husband died, she needs the money. Whatever, it's her business, not mine. Let her do what she wants, it's her property. It's not exactly behind my house or next door. It's way down the street and around the corner. Something in my neighborhood, we get nothing in the mail until a design has been selected by who? And why were we not part of that who? I have a big problem with that. And I'm hearing, and I also went to...
I'm not sure I follow you on that.
The letter stated that a design was picked at a November 9th meeting. We knew nothing about it, we didn't know anything about any designs. This has been a project in the works since Sharon Lynn was town manager, and we're now finding out that a design has been picked. We've had no say in it up until then. The Board of Selectmen voted on it. They are not seated here. I went and saw Bobby Anthony in early September. After I went to the DPW and Town Hall first, DPW, Mary Jo Avalar, I told her about it. She suggested talk to Bobby at 30 Conwell, across the street from me and around the corner. One of our selectmen works there. He took my name, said, and my number. Someone will, he said, I've heard something about it, something about maybe a bike path. That was very vague. Boom. I went back in October, hadn't heard from him. I did not realize who he was supposed to be getting in contact with me was Mr. Larson.
Well,
And I was just about to go see him again when the letter came in the mail.
You gotta talk to Bob Anthony about that. I'm not aware of any of those conversations. I can say this, admittedly, I'll more rely on Elizabeth than me, because it's a bit of a fire hose that I'm breathing from. But if you have that sort of issue, please always feel free to contact any of the Board of Selectmen, but feel free to contact me too.
Most of my neighbors I went and saw.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just mentioning going forward.
Right, going forward.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I would think that a Board of Selectmen would be, are there residents from the affected area in this room tonight? Why are they not here and why are they not engaged? Has anyone said boo to them? Nothing.
Well, first of all, notice has been provided to all the abutters. We put notice in the paper of this, I put notice on the line of this conversation. I can't regulate or control who shows up to a meeting. If you have better ways for us to outreach to people, be happy to hear them.
Well, I think when they're doing anything,
outreach.
if there's something like this going to be done anywhere in town, like I said, I've gotten certifieds, my partner's gotten things for 3 streets over, you know, someone wants to change a door, he's in the historic district.
Well, there are different regulations. I mean, I'd also say this, if I'm correct me wrong, are there any, for like historic, et cetera, there are statutory requirements. And it may be the case that the town wishes to consider bylaws regarding notice of projects. What's the required?
There is no requirement.
Right.
Well, I mean, I know the woman on Harry Kemp is not in historical, but I got a notice about her.
I'm assuming that that's related to a distance issue. I don't know the answer, but in the
I'm just
state,
trying to
there's no
clarify
uniform-
moving forward,
Yeah, no,
how things should be done.
I'm just saying, in the state, there is no uniform notice. It depends on the type of permit or activity, depends upon what notice gets sent. The notice that was sent here is not regulated by state law or bylaw, but if there's recommendations on how to do it and how to do better notice, I have no, there's, the whole goal of transparency is not to hide stuff. Okay, so.
Well, that's how it seemed
right,
until the notice came in the mail.
I hear you. Okay, but what I'm asking for is advice on how to get better notice out. Like already telling staff they gotta send stuff out 7 days before they thought they had to send it out. Good. Putting better notices or stuff in the paper, fine, or other ways. I'm open to it. I don't, again, I can't speak to any particular past item. The November one, when I learned of it myself at the day of it, you know, it was on my watch. I apologize. In terms of my tracking things, I had not asked the question before that evening's meeting what the notice was that went out. I just, of the 50 things I'm thinking of during the day, that wasn't one that I thought I needed to track. Now I've learned that I do.
I've studied these plans up one side, down the other, and what I see right now are bike paths to nowhere. And what I'd like to know is
if it's back on the substance piece.
Okay, is there a master plan in place for the town or to incorporate and tie these bike paths to anywhere? Right now, one ends in front of my front door, another one across the street at the corner of Cemetery Road and Conwell Street, and both of them deadhead at Route 6. Are we continuing 2 lanes across Route 6 and a sidewalk?
Because on the other side of Route 6, there's nothing that ties the
Yes,
bus path.
there have been discussions, that portion of Race Point Road from the modified highway layout into the national park there. Yes, currently they're thinking of using that as a share of the road, and there are no plans for sidewalks in that area. But there have been discussions to integrate that section of road to be more compliant. The opposite side of Conwell, bring that towards, you know, Beach Forest and the national
Keep in
park.
mind, that section of road there on Race Point Road has an abundance of people that live there. And if this is a topic about safety, if you're gonna widen the road on Conwell and keep it narrow on Race Point Road and have traffic and bicycles and pedestrians diverted on that road, you're potentially creating a more dangerous area for pedestrians especially, and bikes, because if you ever stand on Conwell Street, the traffic signal, it's supposed to be 40 miles an hour, but I can tell you that there's cars that come flying down that road I pull out of the driveway and cars are passing me as I'm pulling out of the driveway on the other side of the street doing 60, 65 miles an hour. So potentially, if you are creating an environment welcoming pedestrians and bicycles, maybe you want to rethink about the whole design as to safety. Because there's certainly not going to be safety in my eyes.
Widening this road is going to give an impression of a highway, and they will drive like it is a highway. Subconscious or not, they will pull off of Route 6, and I see it. And once you add more asphalt on both sides, regardless, I just went up to have my teeth cleaned today in Wellfleet. I was buying a car doing 10 to 15 miles over the speed limit the entire way. Only once did they brake when they saw a Truro police officer in a cruiser near the Truro firehouse. They're worrying about a bike lane and creating safety, yet the real issue has been on the street forever, and everyone has complained about, it's fallen on deaf ears, is the speed limit. The state refuses to do anything about it. They think it's acceptable. So now we're going to add wider ribbons of asphalt down both sides. That is not going to help. And as my neighbor Pauline said, cars will pass on the right. I have seen people try and do it in front of my property, in front of where I step out of my front gate. A car is coming from Bradford, heading towards Route 6, and it is stopped to turn left onto Cemetery Road. It is waiting for traffic that is coming off Route 6, because when the light changes, you get 6, 7 cars, and it's waiting. And the people are squeezing between my picket fence and the passenger side of that stopped vehicle. And I've got about 12 inches of dirt outside that fence, and I will find tire tracks in it. And when that becomes asphalt and my fence is pushed back, they will be not slowing down to pass on the right. They will be flying by. Okay, which leads me to a problem with your design, because I believe you're the gentleman I spoke to yesterday, the day before?
Yes.
Pushing the sidewalk outside of the phone pole, not behind the phone pole at 20, is there something I'm missing that's funny here?
No, I'm sorry, I can't respond to questions because you're just going so fast.
Okay, we'll go to that one, because I want to bring up the subject of pushing the whole project my way to create more of a directional curve of Conwell Street as opposed to signage. You've told me that the sidewalk will be outside the phone pole across from my living room. And outside that sidewalk will now be a bike path. And outside that bike path will be a driving lane. So you are in essence pushing the double solid line way over to my side of the street, moving my fence back. Yes, the property is state highway, I realize that. It's putting traffic closer to my house. It's wrecking my property value, or at least diminishing it. But the thing is, wouldn't signage, isn't there supposed to be some compromise here?
So when you say signage, what do you?
Signage, in other words, you said that you want people not to think that, I do see people slow down thinking maybe they should turn right onto Cemetery Road, thinking that's the way downtown. A simple sign that says downtown or Conwell this way, Cemetery, people won't do that. Putting a curb and sidewalk out in the street.
Put up more signs.
You're sliding a lot of roadway towards my house.
Can I answer, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I discussed with you over the phone, perhaps you didn't understand, was on the other side of the street from you directly is a driveway with a slope issue.
I'm sorry?
Directly across the street from you is a driveway with a slope issue and a hillside that we're already cutting into.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do here is to balance the design so that he can still get into his driveway and we don't steepen his driveway to a point that cars won't be able to get into it, while keeping the road somewhat aligned. And so with that, what we're proposing to do with the wall that you have built on state property is to shift one side of that wall in 2 feet so that it's off of the road a little bit.
I could care less about the wall. I can build a new one. I've built hundreds of them. It's not my first time at the Fieldstone Rodeo. My concern is the traffic coming closer to my house towards my living room, which is the point of my house that's closest to the street. You're pushing a lot of asphalt towards my street, and as far as across the street, in that parking area that you spoke of, in the condo docks for that property, tandem parking is not allowed. It is only 3 cars side by side. So even coming in a little bit over there, it's not like you're taking their parking spaces at all.
But we still have to get into the driveway, right? You still have to turn off the street into the driveway, up the slope. So the question is, by pushing that slope further into that property, we're chasing a slope. So that's what we're trying to do, is to provide a reasonable driveway grade over there as well. And
Well, a
balance
reasonable
that.
driveway grade versus putting Cisco and whatnot food trucks flying closer to my living room, I don't like that. And people that are gonna be passing on the right, I live on the street, I know what goes on. The state doesn't, the engineers don't, my neighbors do, we know.
Could you address some of the safety issues you took into consideration when doing those designs, or when the architects did those designs? or-
Engineers. So this roadway cross-section that you're seeing here is a standard cross-section that has been adopted by all the different guidelines. Mass DOT, ASHTO. This is a standard bicycle lane configuration.
It's the complete street, as you call it.
The complete streets just means that you're providing multimodal accommodations along the roadway.
But it's not
And so
complete.
what it's doing is it's providing a designated space for those bicyclists to be in, highlighting their existence so that the drivers realize that they're there. There would be pavement markings within that lane periodically that has the bicycle symbol with the arrow that really identifies, hey, this is a bike lane. And it provides adequate width to keep that bicyclist away from getting hit by a car.
It doesn't seem like a complete street when it dead ends at Cemetery Road in front of my front door. Especially when the state highway portion runs to Harry Kemp. I think we're putting the cart before the horse because they want to, Mr. Larson said they wanted to start construction on it this spring. It might get pushed back till the fall. And we have nothing definitive as far as what the Seashore plans on doing across Route 6. If they're going to put their foot down and say, we're not putting bike paths over there or a sidewalk, then I say, why do we need this on my street at all? Now I went down and measured down on Bradford Street Extension today. There is a bike path, share the road sidewalk concept in place down there. And that's what they have. And the sidewalks are 5 foot 5 inches wide. 15 inches of that is a slope down to the pavement of the street.
Yeah.
There's no curbing, and the street is 15 to 16. I think they were 10-foot lanes, or 15 to 16 or total is what that was. I went around and measured everywhere today, down by the moors. I measured Herring
So it's
Cove.
a
I
5.5
measured National
foot
Seashore.
It's a 5.5 foot sidewalk with a 1.5 foot that's sloped. So it's essentially, it's a 4 foot.
It's basically 4 feet of asphalt that slopes 15 inches and then goes into the roadway to the double yellow line. And then it repeats. Yes, it is. I have pictures on my phone. I photographed it to boot.
It doesn't comply to code, but yeah.
But it worked. What I'm saying is that concept, Shield Road, works just fine down there. So why do we have to destroy so much of my neighborhood when we can't have that down there? And I'm telling you, people are going to come off Route 6 and see a span of, a wasteland of asphalt, and they're going to go like hell. And they already do. And nothing is done about it. Not the state, and that's the real problem.
Excuse me, I just would like to explain to you too that we have to play by the same rules of the state. It's still state-owned land. It may be federally and town funded, but it's a town administered project in the state layout. So what we do there needs to comply to their standards. If it's not DOT standard, we can't do it. It's as simple as that.
Is there any?
Wait a minute, Rob, let somebody else speak. I think the issue is that you've got a plan that ends. It doesn't continue towards Bradford Street, and I think that that's the issue. And one of the other problems on that road is there's 3 different speed limits on Conwell Street. From the traffic lights to Cemetery Road, it's 30 miles an hour. We were told this last year at a traffic hearing. And then from Cemetery Road to Harry Kemp Way, I think it's 25 miles an hour.
That's incorrect, Mary Jo.
Wait a minute, Rob.
Okay, just tell me.
And then from Harry Kemp Way to Bradford Street, it's 20 miles an hour. But there are 2 or 3 different speed limits on that road. And the state has been it's impossible to deal with the issues on that road.
So-
And nobody, I mean, I don't mind road improvements, but it seems silly to make so many improvements on the biggest section of the road and still leave the problem that everybody's got on the other part of the road, which is, I came into town the other night, from where, I don't know, it was dark already, and there were a couple of people walking by, I still call it Dexter's, and what's it called now?
So-
Whatever. So, walking by it, and, you know, and if I had been speeding, I might have hit them. You know, they were dressed in black. So the real issue on that road is pedestrian access. That road needs to be from Conwell, there needs to be one-way traffic on that road with a sidewalk.
You're
And
talking
not
Conwell
From
beyond
Cemetery.
Cemetery.
From Harricamp to Bradford.
Yes.
That's not, and you're not addressing that issue. You're addressing the issue that doesn't need any addressing right now.
There is a speed limit sign at Conwell Lumber saying 30 miles. That says increase your speed going into a backwards S-curve on a decline.
Dave?
So, when we applied for this grant as a partner with the Cape Cod National Seashore. So this is a federally funded grant. The grant guidelines were connections to national parks. So the reason why it takes the route that it does is because the seashore, in partnership with the town and the bike committee, identified this as a connection from the seashore bike lanes to the downtown area. This is a designated bike route already. The route runs from the Race Point trails, down Race Point Road, cross Route 6, up Conwell, takes a right on Cemetery, and then goes to Alden Street, down to Bradford, and then ultimately town here. So that's a designated bike route, and that's the route in which the improvements take. The grant actually, although this is the only section of improvement, because that's generally where the significant right-of-way is, and that's the opportunity for improvement, it actually includes share the road sections from Route 6 to the trail, and on the other end from the cemetery to the pier. The part of the reason why it takes a right on Cemetery, whether we like that or not, or we agree with that or not, is because Conwell Street is not there isn't sufficient right-of-way to accommodate that traffic now. Now, if we ever get around to making it a one-way and have the ability to extend those bike trails and sidewalks all the way to Bradford Street, then at that point, it would make sense to change the route and continue that improvement all the way down. But that is not the bite of the apple that we have in front of us right now. It's just this particular.
But it just occurred to me that if we made Conwell one way from Cemetery Road to Bradford, and we send traffic, you're gonna have to make Cemetery Road one way, you know, towards Route 6, because people live off that. I mean, my sister lives off that. There's like houses back there off the Cemetery Road. So Cemetery Road needs to be factored into this, and if you're gonna if that's the bike path, which, hello, first time I ever heard of it, lived in Provincetown for 69 years. If that's the first time I've ever heard of Cemetery Road being a designated bike path, if you're going to divert them, if this is part of the Seashore's plan, and George Price will be here on the 15th meeting with the selectmen, and I'm the town's representative to the advisory commission, you're going to have to change that, because if eventually Conwell is going to be one way south, then you cannot have Cemetery Road being one way west, because it's a silly bike path. Because what about the people that live off the Cemetery Road? They're not going to be able to get to their houses except by going all the way around to come on Route 6, to come back down Conwell Street, to make a right-hand turn onto Cemetery Road. That's going to be the only way people who live off Cemetery Road, like my family, like Billy Rogers, like a whole bunch of people that live in houses back
So
there.
that's way beyond the scope of what we're talking
I
about
know,
today.
but we
Nor
got-
have
this is
we
the
ever
problem.
gotten to the point where we
But
even are
David,
capable of
this is
discussing
the
Conwell Street.
problem. We're doing everything piecemeal. There's no master plan. And if this gets implemented in the form that it's being proposed now, what happens down the road when we come up with some other foolish plan? Nothing is, it's all piecemeal. There's nothing about it. I don't care if you do it or not, as long as everything makes sense in the larger scheme of things. But we're not dealing with the larger scheme of things. We're dealing with this little section, we're dealing with that little section. And that's the problem. You know, nobody's thinking about the future.
I'm trying.
Problem, in my opinion.
Well, this is exactly what Grassy Santos said the night of the meeting when he came to the microphone. He said that there are too many disparate pieces. There are too many plans, there's no synchronizing going on. And at the same time, go down Alden Street, Grassy said, if this is gonna be the discussion, then there should be discussion of going off Alden onto Route 6. In other words, this is incomplete.
There was discussion about that.
Right.
So, but that's not what they chose. This is what was chosen as the preferred alternative.
By people that don't live in Provincetown. People on the.
No,
And if Conwell became one-way, have we widened the portion of Conwell Street where I live out to Route 6 for nothing? Because are we gonna need it that wide? Yes, it could still be one-way with 2 bike paths and a sidewalk, but you're not gonna need a street that big. So we're basically it sounds like they're ready to build this thing with no other pieces of the puzzle to connect to it, no real game plan, and spend the money, which might just be a waste of money. And this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm all for safety. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I tell people, walk facing the traffic, you don't have a sidewalk here, or this, that, and the other thing. I don't know why it has to be as wide. Myself, the wide road and the double sidewalks, bike paths and a sidewalk is just gonna subconscious, and I see how these tourists come off Route 6 and some of the locals. And I don't think it's necessary, I don't think it's good for the neighborhood, I don't think it's good for the town.
Well, can I just say something? During my conversation with the Cape Cod Commission, it was discussed, hey, they're looking at the whole town as a whole and what the circulation plan will be, and given the road width is obviously a critical component of it, because there's so many real narrow roads, such as the other portion of Conwell Street. One thing that we did discuss was would there be any potential to ever change this segment of Conwell Street to one-way, based on where the study is going? And their answer was no. There was no considerations for even changing this to a one-way roadway. The other section of Conwell and Cemetery Road, they're looking into that, but I do just want to point that out. They established an idea on specifically what that stretch of Conwell and Cemetery Road will be, yet at the time when I had spoken to them, no, they hadn't. But they have no intentions of planning a one-way roadway along this segment.
I have a couple of questions about what I'm able to sort of see on the plan at this scale. What is the proposed new paved width versus what we see on the ground now?
Where it varies, I think you're not gonna see more than a 2 to 3 foot increase in the largest section. So the overall increase will probably be between 3 and 5 feet total of paved width increase.
Including sidewalk or just the bike lane?
Just the bike lanes. The sidewalks would be inclusive of that, because in front of where your office is there, basically the sidewalk would be at where that steel edging is, along, and then we'd still keep that parking there, but it basically would be right against the property line. There would be the sidewalk in 5.5 feet to park.
I mean, I welcome this getting moving again, because, I mean, I've been anticipating a sidewalk and bike path since 1999, when we developed Old Dam Page Way and the properties at 34, 36. I mean, I was required at that time to grant an easement, a 12-foot easement on the property that used to be the Old Dam P, to allow for the use of an expansion of the sidewalk. It always was talked about on the south side of the street or west side of the street. But over time, it was kind of, I've wondered about whether this sidewalk belongs on the other side of the street where there are fewer curb cuts. And my just kind of big picture looking at this, I do certainly hope that it does connect across Race Point Road, but I'm not sure that having it on where it currently exists, the sidewalk where the traffic light is, makes the most sense. More people live on the east side of Race Point Road, going down towards Seashore Park and where stable path.
We'd have to reconfigure the highway. All the crosswalks and the push buttons and signals and everything are on that side. And based on the sloped hill, before you come up to Cemetery Road, there are wear indicators where people have been walking on that hill. So there is sufficient evidence that that side is utilized. The businesses that are on that side of the road, yes, there are more curb cuts, but it does give, I think it's a better opportunity for us to develop that side, given the orientation of Cemetery Road and the thought of diverting, pedestrians and bicyclists and really trying to deter them from the worst area of Conwell. It's more of just, it's
And even
natural
though-
progression.
Even though we're proposing the sidewalk on that side of the road, and there are those driveways there, it's our objective and goal to make sure that whatever driveway openings that we provide are wide enough for all the uses on that side. So there are some, wider than normal, some driveway openings along there, but we want to delineate the sidewalk while not having impacts to access, whatever access for that specific property is.
Still didn't hear how safety was addressed, because if you think about it, if you have the businesses where he lives, and you have a sidewalk there, plus bicycle traffic, when people are coming from Route 6 or even from the other direction and they want to turn, it potentially block, it's going to back up if there's pedestrians or bikes traveling on the road. Also, another concern of mine is if you're going to divert people off Cemetery Road, that's a road that is already challenging for two cars in opposite directions to get past each other. And I mean, that's, and then if you divert the bicycles and pedestrians.
So first of all, under this project, we're not proposing to divert anybody. Our project limits is at that
That's
point.
the start.
That's phase 2, and yes. As far as the safety question, it has to do with providing bicyclists with their own space and delineating that and alerting the drivers to the existence of bicycles and having a bicycle lane with these pavement markings. That's what the whole focus is here. That's why it provides safety. For pedestrians, it provides a vertical granite curving, typically 6-inch reveal, so that a vehicle can't kill them, hit them, and run pedestrians over.
With the driveways there.
Now, with regards to the curb cuts, yes, that's true that cars will have to, if there's a pedestrian crossing a driveway, the car will have to stop, but they do that now. It's no different, it's just providing an identified place for the pedestrians to be and the bicyclists to be conventional with industry standard.
I'd have to agree with Ted Malone. As I said, I tell people to walk facing the traffic. It's nice to see what's going to run you over rather than not see what's going to run you over. The foot traffic that I do primarily see, other than my neighbors, and yes, Chris does walk it every day, I've commented on that, is people coming from the campground. And they don't just walk up Route 6 to the light and then cross. They sometimes walk across all 4 lanes of Route 6, even in the dark, which puts them on my side, which is the outbound side of the street. And if anything, I would say sidewalk on my side of the street. Because once they get up where your design is, they're going to get to the corner of Cemetery Road and Conwell. And if they're not going to turn and go up Cemetery Road, they're going to have the traffic behind them. A good way to be run over. I've even noticed people with strollers with children and babies in them, brain dead, on the wrong side of the road, no sidewalk. Sidewalk would be better on my side of the street, and if you still want to do the bike paths, fine. I see how many cars pull in and out of yard-arm liquors every day. They back out. Do you see a problem with bicycles getting hit? I do. They also have 18-wheelers that back in and out of there that park. The cab is usually in the street and slightly parked in one direction, okay? And that's where you want to have sidewalk and bike path. And I know you go by guidelines and complete streets. Well, everything doesn't fit into the, perfectly. And like I said, we live on the street. We see it. We know. And I think it's disastrous having a sidewalk on the other side of the street. Really think it should be on my side of the street. People should be walking, facing the traffic. Because once they get to my gravel driveway, they're on their own. There is no sidewalk after that. And God knows if there ever will be.
That yard-arm liquor delivery is more frequent than you would necessarily be aware.
It seems that way from what we've seen on aerial photography, there's always a truck on that side.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
it's sticking far out into the street, and there was, I mean, people have to walk around it as it is or pull around it. It's really an accident waiting to happen.
The images we had, it
They look
looked like they were
out
on the
spot.
property, so what you're saying is those trucks tend to be projected out into the roadway?
That's the
Across-
tractor trailer.
across the
I live right across from there.
southbound.
I live right, that was my great uncle's house, actually.
Really?
And it became a liquor store in 1976. The man bought it, made it a liquor store. You don't have to tell me about getting out of my driveway in July and August. They've got a jackknife like this,
Really, yeah.
and they're going 50 at least. And they're going around, and they're not even looking. And I have to pull out, my brother's got a fence, there's 3 houses on the property, one significant hunk of land there. We've been here forever. My brother lives right at the end, he's got a fence, and there's a tree there that Barbara Rushmore planted on state land. which
That will be
won't
cut
come-
down.
Which will come down. I won't comment on it because my brother helped her off the record. But I have a hard time seeing around that tree, trying to pull out. Then I've got people coming flying down the hill, coming around from, by Henchy Lane, where Henry Henchy, the painter, lived. And they're going at least 40, at least. It took me 34 minutes one time to get out of my yard, to go to the, I couldn't walk down that day. 34 minutes because of Mr. Gainey had a truck on. Now, I'm not begrudging Mr. Gainey, he's a businessman. You know, he's got 175 cases of Budweiser and whatever. They're there a half an hour, 45 minutes unloaded. But I mean, I see it in July and August when cars, it can be 85 degrees out and we think everybody's at Herring Cove and Race Point. They're piling up Conwell Street and there's a line past Rob's house down to my house. And that's not even a rainy day. A rainy day, God in heaven.
If it's raining, it's backed up.
It's almost
Literally,
to the
literally
right.
from Bradford Street down towards
Oh, yeah.
Ted Malone's property.
Yeah.
Traffic is backed up. If it's raining, the thought is go to Provincetown, you can run in and out of shops all day and not get wet.
Yeah.
Just also, as traffic patterns go, I'm born and raised on that street too. So it's been a lot of years I've been there. The Cemetery Road, that corner is a blind corner. My driveway abuts 31 and 33. So coming out, you have to like nose out, and wait in a vehicle just to make a right turn out of my driveway and gun it out of the driveway because people come around that corner so fast. So there's a speed issue that needs to be addressed.
I think we need to emphasize to the state that they have to lower the speed of that.
So, that brings up a good point. Okay, the way that speed limits work, I hate to be bearer of bad news, but the way that speed limits work is you can't just install a speed limit sign for a traffic calming device. You can't just install a 20-mile-an-hour regulatory white with black lettering.
Is this DOT?
This is DOT. This is state requirement. No matter state road, town road, you have to do a special speed regulation, which regardless of if it is on state road or local town road, you still have to follow the same procedure.
I understand what
It's,
you're
so,
saying.
and
but
it's based
just-
off of the
it's-
85th percentile of drivers. So you basically do a speed study and you find out how fast the great majority of traffic is traveling, basically. And that's how a speed limit is established.
But
I
that's-
know what you're gonna say, that how do we slow traffic
You can
down?
talk to Sarah.
But this is a state law. I have nothing to do with
No,
it.
I understand.
But
It's
it's
bureaucracy.
It's called
technically-
red
You know what
tape.
it is.
Well,
It's technically,
But the speed thing's
if-
been an issue in the last 20 years.
I know, but he was bringing up, we should petition asking for a slower speed limit sign, and I just want to let you know that that's the responsibility.
That's, you're gonna have to go to your state
You-
rep, you're gonna have to do that.
I've contacted the state rep repeatedly. Nothing.
That might be one.
I just wonder, what about the thickly settled law? That was one of the things they taught us in driving school. When houses are less than a quarter of a mile apart from each other, the speed limit was supposed to be X amount and not to go higher. So how can it be as high as 30 miles an hour? Those houses aren't more than a quarter mile an hour
So
apart.
there are two different things. There's prima facie speed and there's regulated speed limit signs. That is a general rule for prima facie speed. If you're driving in a certain area, you should be traveling at this speed, this, that, the other. There are some loopholes in that as well, however. That's different than a regulatory, they call it an R2-1 speed limit sign, which is the white background with the black lettering that you can get a ticket on. So technically, the sign is not enforceable unless the speed study has been done and it's been registered with Mass DOT. Local road or state road, doesn't matter. They still have to be registered. And I can give you a list of which ones are
Has a speed study ever
Yes.
been done on that road?
good. On Conwell?
Yes.
They put those double lines every year, 4 or 5 times a year to track how many cars are going through. Shows like
Has it
people
been
were
filed
sitting down
with
the
the
end of
state?
my road half the
And
summer
they
counting cars.
They denied it.
They weren't checking
We
speed.
tried to
They
lower
were
it.
checking
We
some.
try to lower it
They
to 20.
counting cars, I think.
Which makes me wonder why they can't do the same thing for bicycles, so we know how much actual bicycle traffic there is. Why can't they count bicycle tires with those strips in the road? You know, the ones you drive over, ba-bum, ba-bum?
Mhm.
Because, as other people have said here, and I've said the same thing, we don't get that much bike traffic. If anything, I'd be more concerned with a sidewalk for people. Like I said, the campground, that's when you get the walkers.
You get a ton of walkers on that street. I walk it all the time, and I bike it off. I'm a biker. So biking on that portion of Bradford Street is not an issue. It's wide enough. You don't have to worry. It's when you get to the narrow part of Conwell that I'm worried. And Bradford is a mess. Most people travel on Bradford to go to the beaches, and that is a danger. And I've seen people hit on their bikes on that street. All the cops on and everything. That is a disaster, Bradford Street. And no one wanted to put the bike lane there because the parking spaces that would disappear a couple of years ago. You need to make the street safer. Conwell is a disaster when it narrows. When you're walking there at night, you cannot see. I drive down that street and see people almost hitting them before I hit them. It's crazy. To me, not to address that portion of the street before this huge project that's gonna make it look like a super highway coming off of 6 and a speed limit, that's crazy.
I do want to
That's
point out here.
That's what I see.
Okay, I do want to point out here also, when we talk about 30-foot roadway, 5-foot bike lanes, 10-foot travel lanes, really by standards, 10 feet is kind of narrower than what we would typically do along a road like that. Not that I'm proposing anything bigger at all. I'm just trying to tell you that a 10-foot travel lane is tighter than you think when you're driving down that roadway. I don't think it will be a feeling of a super highway. In fact, I have some photos afterwards when we can look at some things closer up with you individually, and I kind of show you what it probably will look like.
I think we should look at it.
What is the current width of the roadway? Each travel lane, what is the current width of the roadway?
Right now, it's just wide.
Is it 10 feet across?
The existing roadway itself is variable as far
Okay.
as,
I think the lane is.
I've never seen an 18-wheeler
I don't think, there's not really.
drive off of the
specifically shoulder lines
pavement.
on the road, so it's just the variable roadway width. Yeah.
I have a large motorhome, I don't have any trouble driving that.
So,
I
so.
mean, one of the things
To
too
answer
is,
your question, the existing roadway does not have the shoulder lines that, the roadway width varies.
There's no uniform.
Yeah, it's all over the
What you're
place.
saying.
Yeah, it's kind of.
That's the way it's always been.
Quite honestly.
Forever.
well, this comes down to what they want or what we really need. And at the cost of visually impacting the neighborhood, I think it's gonna destroy the look of the neighborhood. Everyone loves a small town, I say it all the time when I see litter in Provincetown. And it comes from tourists, I'll find a beer bottle from my front yard or something, and it's like, oh, we love Provincetown, let's go to Provincetown, we love it, it's so beautiful, so pretty, let's litter. Okay, so we love Provincetown, now let's rip it apart and change it, because we like to ride our bikes. You know? My house will be one of those ones you look at in the future and say, that must have had a nice front yard at one time. Now the road's right up to the front door. You know, let's change it and ruin it. You know, I mean, my attitude, I can move at any moment. I don't have a problem with it. But I don't think this makes any sense in a lot of different areas. I don't think it makes any sense at all.
We're technically not impacting.
I think that there's room for compromise that make it make sense. But in its current presentation, not at all.
All the work is within state-owned land.
I'm sorry?
All the work is within state-owned land. We're not impacting your yard.
I mean, the 28-foot layout didn't bring traffic closer to my house. I don't see why they can't have one shared bike lane. What, people on bicycles don't pay attention so they can't see each other driving at each other? It's done all over town. Bike Beach is in the West End. Do you ever see how many bikes are lined up in the summer out there? And there's no sidewalks out there, but they have bike paths. They actually end before you even hit Bradford Street Extension. You know, it's this mixed matched.
So if
It
you
doesn't
did,
all
if you
connect
did a
and-
two-way bike path, it would be, you're talking about the same width, if not more, when you talk about buffers. So if you're talking.
Could we have a
two-directional-
double width bike lane and no sidewalk? I mean, I don't understand how pedestrians and bicyclists can't share a designated space. Like I said, it's
They share
being
the
done
bike path
on
on
Bradford
the
Street Extension.
They share it on the National Street.
Yes.
How much width they have?
You know, share the road, share the road. That's, you know.
But not,
It's
not
not
on the
that.
same side of the street. That's, they tried to move Bradford Extension, getting people to be on opposite sides of the street. The accident's totally dangerous to have bike traffic.
Like a
on
bike
one
lane
side
in
of
front
the
of my
street.
house, like that. People are gonna pass.
I know pedestrians
and-
who have gotten hit by bikes, it's not a pleasant thing.
You can't even ride your bike in the summertime.
No, we can't.
But also keep in mind with all this, this is a preferred alternative where we want to go. And there is the direct possibility that if there's not sufficient funding, or it's not worthwhile, that the sidewalk would be omitted. And that is an entire possibility. We're going for a preferred option. What we can do, and if we can fund it and we can do it appropriately, yes, but we may find from costing that we have to scale this back or phase the project. So that's just always a real possibility.
I'm under the impression that there were 3 designs done. I've only seen 2 because we were not brought into the discussions beforehand. I guess it's alternative 1 was selected, but was there an alternative 2 and 3?
Yes.
I've never seen anything for
Eric, do you have those
alternative 2.
with you now?
I do.
Yes.
I mean, there's no objection to going over.
And I'd like to know if, as we spoke on the phone the other day, if you could, or someone could, come out and mark right across my driveway, right across my front yard, my side yard, and down the street with stakes, whether they be wood, whatever, with a dot of fluorescent orange spray paint, so we can see where the new sidelines are gonna be. Because looking at it on a map and actually seeing it are 2 different things.
Well, if I may jump in, before we get to there, it's not a bad idea. I'd like to understand myself what sort of the summary issues are, because I kind of thought I'm trying to tease them out. It doesn't appear to be, it appears to be, first of all, the speed limit the state's got, number 1, right? Because no matter what, that makes the roadway dangerous. We've all seen that. 2, it's not having a bike or sidewalk necessarily, it's adding the roadway pavement that creates this sense of the German highway, right?
The Autobahn.
The Autobahn, right.
I see how they come off of Route 6, it's horrible.
So, because I'm trying to figure out what are the principles that need to be protected if we're going to do any improvement. And granted, I do come from the, a perfect plan executed someday is not as good as a real plan executed today. We don't have all the money in the world, and if we had to wait until we could put every single perfect road in Provincetown in place at once, it would never happen. So you do wind up having to go piecemeal. Whether it's the right piecemeal is another story. But what I'm hearing is, it's not opposition to having safe space for bikes and pedestrians necessarily. The way it looks and the way it's laid out and the roadway width, those are the issues. And the other fact that we're stuck with following state DOT guidelines. Is that sort of the summary? Have I missed a key point?
The part that it just sort of ends.
Where it ends, and what do you do? Yeah,
Where
I've
do
got
they
the-
go from there?
Yeah, no, my favorite,
I think
my
it's
favorite's
gonna
right over
get-
here on Bradford,
You're gonna have
down from
false
Grace Hall.
security because, we have a lovely bike path, we have the sidewalk, and then all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah.
you
The major
know.
problem still exists, and in that part of Conwell Street, I can honestly say at nighttime, when I'm walking through town and I choose to go that way,
Yeah.
than the other 2 ways that I could get to town, one being Pauline's driveway, the other cemetery. If I walk down Conwell Street, I carry a flashlight.
I carry a
with me.
flashlight.
But I don't put it on until I get to that narrow section. I feel considerably safe on the section of the street that was
We're
part
talking
of the design. Exactly, because it's wide enough right now to be away from traffic.
You can
Once
jump
you
to the
get,
side.
once you get on the other part of
Right.
Conwell, is where it's more unsafe because there is no way to get away from
Yeah,
people.
jumping into the bushes at Dexter's
Yeah.
many a time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quality life balancing act, you know, the bicycle people want what they want, you know, everybody wants safety for everybody, but then there's the people that are affected that live in the neighborhood. Myself, my house is close to the street, I mean, it was built in 1948, I bought it from the guy who built it. It is what it is. My neighbors across the street, you know, they're close, there's people up the street towards Bradford that their houses sit right on, I mean, 4 feet back, it's crazy.
No, the houses are where they are.
Yep.
Right? I can't control what the state highway layout is. In the absence of us doing anything at any point in time for the next 100 years, the state could come in and do whatever the heck they want in that space anyways. It's state land, right? We're stuck with that, right, the way it is right now. But that being said, how we treat it and what the width is, I mean, and I don't think it's an answer, because I want to go back and talk to the guys here when we're done with the session. But, you know, in my world, if I actually could have bike lanes, I want to see in the US, I want to see essentially what I call Dutch bike lanes. I want to see that it is actually a divided roadway where it's a clear delineation of where the car is. It's not one piece of pavement that you look at and you go, oh, I could just slide, there's no bike there, I can just slide over.
Almost like Europe with the poles.
Yeah, but right,
Yeah, exactly.
where the bikes have you know, basically their own guardrail, their own little curb line. That's personally because then we're treating bikes like they're cars. We give cars that safety. Why don't we treat bikes with the same deal of respect? I don't know if that's also helpful in here because we're really talking about this road width issue. But I've got to head to my next discussion. I'm already a few minutes late, but I want to hear what you guys keep going on. But did I miss any key thing that's been said so far?
No.
For me, I still haven't heard that the need, a clear, assessment of the need, this safety issue versus what the fix is. Because again, as per what everybody said, we're bringing them down Conwell and we're dropping them off at Warford areas. So the need and the fix are not aligned at all.
I'm sure they can brief you.
Yeah, no, they will.
So-
Trust me, I'm not going to let them go without that. They knew that already.
I just want to make a comment, because I bike and walk there quite a bit. One of the things I wonder about is this concept of what the sidewalk needs to be there. You know, you're gonna take and put all your pedestrian, traffic into one lane. It's either going to be coming against traffic down the hill on the liquor store side, or it's going to be on the other side. I think that the sidewalk concept in that particular area all by itself, and what was said about creating the broad boulevard ought to be rethought, so that the pedestrian traffic and the bike traffic is purposefully mixed. Give a little space on both sides, so that bikes and pedestrians can, safely move. But don't try to segment out the bikes and the pedestrians, because you're not gonna make that segmentation through design. You're gonna have like a stripe, and anybody riding on a bike, going along the sidewalk side, will grab that sidewalk if they need it. And any car coming, is gonna grab part of that bike path. So, to me, it's more sensible just to omit the sidewalk altogether and grow both sides of the road a little bit to create safer bike lanes and walkways. Because the other problem is we're gonna have the whole stable path, Nelson, all of that traffic. I don't know, maybe I'm there at the wrong time of day, but I see quite a bit of bike traffic. And people during, good weather, coming over the hill to walk into
I
town,
don't see it,
okay?
but you do.
But the question is, give them a little more room. And don't try to arbitrarily set aside the bikes from the pedestrians. If the bikers get a sense, coming down the hill from Conwell toward Route 6, that that's their dedicated lane, over time, that traffic is going to pick up speed in itself. It's already fast. If you, ingrain this idea that the pedestrians and bikes are going to be together down through there, you might possibly moderate that speed. And it's going to be a learned thing, If you have people who are here seasonally, they're crazy anyway on bikes.
I back into my driveway, Peter, because I cannot back out onto the street. I've been there 11 years and I haven't had an accident yet. I haven't been nailed yet,
Right,
but I know it's coming.
right,
It's just a matter of time,
right.
you know?
But I think that, again, the idea of having that dedicated sidewalk is going to create.
Is there
more-
some reason why we can't have the pedestrians and the bikes shared path? I mean, is there some law?
They're going with the preferred perfect street concept. You know, this is in a perfect world.
But
you
really,
know,
it's
but
too
it-
small a zone. This is 800 feet of roadway, is not to me.
In a perfect world, we would have had wider sidewalks and wider travel lanes, so we're not doing
But
that.
you didn't answer my
To
question.
your
Is there some
about-
reason why we can't have the bicyclists and the pedestrians shared?
Typically, you don't have bicycles and pedestrians in the same zone. You could have a wider area for both uses, however, again, it's a wider area, and you're not going to.
Well, there's no area now. so
Be-
why-
But we have it on Bradford Street Extension, which is a much
I can't
longer
talk
stretch
about
of
what
roadway.
somebody else
Pre-existing
did.
non-
Because that's town and this is state, is that why?
I'm just talking about industry standard, what's a safe design. We're all about safety.
Well, I'm just talking about what we know here in town works
Exactly.
already.
Right.
Is Bradford Street Extension.
We're not the rest of the world.
It doesn't
I don't-
matter. There's province towns rules and
There's
then
ADA.
there's state.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is there some state rule or some Provincetown law that says bicyclists and pedestrians cannot share the same roadway?
No,
Same
but
path?
We're not in the town, we're in state property.
Is there some state law that says the pedestrians and bicyclists cannot share the
Yes, they
same path?
generally segregate cyclists from
Generally.
pedestrians.
But
Generally.
Yeah, but this-
I just want to pipe in here. I'm Rick, I'm on the bike committee. But I just wanted to say that, could we do a shared use path, or does that require
You would need,
more
you
space?
could, but it would be more space.
How much space, do you
For
know?
instance, we considered cycle tracks and having a two-way cycle track on one side of the road, but then you've got to deal with the separation between that and traffic. And so now you would have to be dealing with not just those 10-foot travel lanes, but now you've got an offset from that 10-foot travel lane to the actual gutter line of the roadway. So now you're wide taking up more width. You know, so we did consider things like that, and this
But
is,
you want it
this is
on
our
both
effort in
sides, right?
trying to squeeze as much as we could
Why do we have to have
without
both sides?
impacting the abutters.
Traffic goes two ways.
Yeah.
They gotta go with the flow.
Yeah, bicyclists need to conform to the same regulations that motor vehicles
Oh,
do.
yeah, right.
You know, same rules, same road type thing.
Of course, I don't see them following that a lot. I see them
Well,
riding through your
yeah.
rest in the middle of Conwell
We
Street.
could do the.
Actually,
most perfect
Commercial
road
Street is two-way
equal to
traffic for
everything.
bicycles.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Is,
like that forever?
I know.
is there any reason that we can't do just the shared bike lane with, not with the pedestrians, but with the vehicles? You know, that, and still comply with whatever grant objectives?
Well, I don't know how it complies with the grant.
Looking part of the scope, I'd have to talk to the park to see if that.
You know, and
invalidates
there are locations that where, much tighter locations than this, quite frankly, where the travel speeds are low enough, and we're able to do something called shallow pavement markings, which are like a bicycle symbol with a double arrow at the top. It's within the vehicular travel lane, and it identifies kind of where the bicycles should be traveling. It's especially helpful when it comes to, number one, alerting the driver that there are bicyclists in the roadway, and number two, when there's on-street parking, as we have a short stretch here at least, making sure that a vehicle opening up their car door isn't going to take out a bicycle. You know, when they open up the driver's side door and a bike is coming, not good. So it helps with that. It's definitely not a preferred way of doing things. And the travel speeds have to be low enough that you can do it. I want to say 30 miles an hour as far as what the travel, the average, not the average, but the 80% how travel speeds on the roadway are.
I think if the state were willing to drop that speed limit down, we wouldn't have so much of an issue with the bikes or people sharing low lanes or whatnot, you know, but with people flying by.
Just to clarify, with that state law having to do with special speed regulations, that special speed regulation has to be in place in order really to put up a speed limit sign, a white with a black speed limit sign. I'm not talking about the yellow with the black. That's a warning. That doesn't, yeah. We're talking about the white with the black. In order to put that sign up, you need a special speed regulation. In order to get that special speed regulation, you have to submit the speed study to the state and for their approval to issue it. Apparently, this has already been done for Conwell Street, and to to no success. So I suspect the reason that you weren't getting anywhere with asking that state to change the speed limit is probably because of that. And I can, tell you.
Perhaps we need to have the DOT here for the next meeting. I mean,
You can try. This comes up time and time again with this. You're
Sarah-
not the only community that says, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. How do I lower the speed limit if I can't? How can I get cars to drive slower if I can't lower the regulated speed limit? You're not the first community to say
Sarah
that.
Peak told me in a discussion I had near her home here in town little over a year ago, maybe October, a year ago, that at the time, the current transportation secretary wanted some concessions in order to basically work on this speed limit issue. She said basically we have to wait till this secretary's out, Charlie Baker or whoever comes in, we get a new transportation secretary, then we can see what we can get. But the current one wanted something they weren't willing to give on. And well, that time it's a year later, still nothing. Nothing. And I know exactly when the speed limit would change quickly and drastically. It would be reduced. As the minute a politician's child is hit on the street and killed, that's when you'll see it change fast. If nobody's hit, it's not going to matter.
No, but just to be devil's advocate here, we could put a legal 25-mile-an-hour sign out there, but currently it's it's 30. People are disregarding the speed limit. It doesn't matter what the sign says. People are going to do what they do unless it's enforceable.
Roger, was Roger still here? No, he left. Celia, who lives over at the senior housing, where Roger lives there. Roger was just here. I think he's on the bike committee. Celia was walking past my house this past summer, walking with her back to the traffic, and Celia's health is not the best. And I just happened to come out of the house, and I saw some people over near my side yard, and I was like, what's going on? And it was Celia down on the ground, blood all over the street. She fell. Side of her head was all blood. And there were, Maria Marinelli here in town had stopped on her bicycle, and someone else, and I grabbed my cell phone. I can't remember if I ran in the house to grab it, or I think I did, and I called Maggie at the florist office because she's Celia's power of attorney. I said, get down here immediately. Celia's in the street, covered in blood. She's had a bad accident. And she came flying down. People always walk not facing the traffic. I don't know what it is, but I think if sidewalk, my side of the street would at least say sidewalk, that's where we walk, and you're facing the traffic. I've seen so many people back to the traffic, and it's amazing no one's been killed in this town. It is. Actually, someone was hit around Halloween up in the East End before the Marilyn Monroe garages at night. No sidewalks, no nothing.
My question is anything we're gonna say or do matter? If you guys wanna do this, are you gonna do it anyway? Do we have any vote on this whatsoever?
The reason why you're here is we're getting your input.
Yes,
And
input is one
if
thing.
there are accommodations that we can make that fit within the scope that conform to DOT regulations,
Why
we'll
don't we
provide
just
that.
scrap the whole thing altogether and leave it the way it is?
DOT should be here to hear us, not just, well, we heard it from the people that were at the meeting who passed on the message, who passed on, you're the
Is this
people
being
that live
voted by
in
the
the
state?
neighborhood.
Yeah, whose idea was
Is this
this?
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts saying that we have to do this?
It's the National Park, Mass DOT, and the town.
The feds and the state government, that's just it. We're too little for them, so our words are not.
I'm not going there.
I know,
I understand what you're saying, Pauline, but I'm not going there. Because you'll see one irate voter here.
Yeah.
I would just like to, exit, say, the sidewalk is more important than the bike lane.
That's,
To me, and a lot of.
I agree, I think sidewalk is the big
I don't know
thing.
why we need to lump
And
it.
4th of July, oh my God, like Rob said, with the strollers, oh my God, and they're walking with traffic and against it.
That's why they have to close the street down.
That's why the DPW is.
The people on the bikes are more aware. The people walking, they're like the walking
I
dead.
don't have a computer. Can you print me out?
This is the same as that.
Can I get the three
version, so it might be
Can I
easy
get
to
the
follow this.
3 proposals and then the one that they decide upon? In other words, can you give me 3 separate things?
Yeah.
And then say the one, this is the one that the town has.
Surprised.
Yeah,
Around
yeah,
Old
just
Town
in
Cemetery
brief,
Road,
too.
it
The
gets
preferred
washed
ones,
off the
obviously,
road.
30-foot wide pavement.
Are these 10 feet wide, the roads
So what's this
themselves?
for
Yes,
Westwood?
and that's
Westwood's gonna
Oh,
go
that's
sometime
10
with
feet.
the car on each side of the road, where does the line go?
Whatever they're doing now, quite frankly.
It's the same alignment.
It's this
On the
picture. this
car
picture-
side?
Yeah, that's the sidewalk.
Oh, the sidewalk.
Option 3.
This is
That's
me.
what doesn't fix the whole town, yeah, we're only fixing here to here right now.
All right, this is me right here.
Okay, girl, okay.
I got all this going on. This is where it comes out.
So it's about 5 feet no matter what.
My little road, yeah, go ahead.
So this
Can you do it off the website, give me that?
This is
Yeah, I have to plot them out, yeah.
Yeah, but you're going right on the
And I'll
corner.
get them next week, it's no priority, I mean, because I don't know when you went, and then I'm having your next meeting.
Here,
Okay, so
you're
that's
not
fine.
taking
You
it.
do that is this weekend when I'm in.
What I'm saying is, where Ron's house
I think
is,
we'll have others
over
that
here.
want it too. Okay, good, that would be
I'll let you know
great.
exactly how much from, see that dot, the X
So the
dash
sidewalk is
X,
gonna be-
that's where the fence is.
That's a
To be
two-way
moved to.
So we're.
Where my fence is actually
Is
outside.
this the turn
See the
that
arrow
goes by the lights?
and the black line? My fence is now,
Okay, pick that up.
my fence is now right here.
Yeah, and Max Silver.
That's my fence. I wanna know how, if this, because I will tell you, traffic is going to pass
Days did that, he's.
on the right, and they're just gonna shoot by, and that creates a really dangerous situation.
But this is the blind curve right here.
Yep, it goes downhill and dips down.
You should
Oh,
like where you
it's bad, they're trying to pass on the right. I just come out to my other gate, I stop and I go,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
It's like three to 4 feet. The fence itself shifts back here.
And
three
this
to 4
is the
feet.
blind curve, and then my driveway. Which
What is
also.
Fury's
How far would the road be from my house as opposed to the fence?
And that
Like
doesn't
from at
say,
your corner here?
so the end of my driveway is gonna be like
To
that.
where the new fence,
So this
the
is
new
the,
fence would be.
so right now there's a berm that's this big. This is what I was trying to
Right.
explain to you over the phone. This here, this double line is the same as this double line here, okay?
Oh,
So
I'm not against sidewalks, I think you need, you need sidewalks.
4 feet from
And I'm not against
this
people having,
gutter line
this
to
on
the
the
right.
bike committee, I'm not opposed to bike, I'm here to hear. I haven't ridden a bike since.
I'd really like to see that marked out from
I mean,
over
I'm not
here,
against bikes, but I'm just.
which is all the way down.
You know, it's like.
At least to Ryan's. This is my
You
neighbor
know, my
Ryan's.
thing's concerned with my parcel here.
He's actually got a
No,
dog
this
park.
is,
And I
this is.
tried to-
That's Apple, right, that's right.
If they're gonna put
D-
a bike,
D and
they're just gonna
Jason.
put a
Yeah.
sidewalk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What,
No sidewalk.
Adrian's over here.
No, I'm talking,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because they're supposed to go
Adrian,
down.
Adrian.
This is the shed
right.
that's existing now. This is the
Street line,
fence.
that's the corner of the house, the bathroom, that's the old upstairs bathroom.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the state highway line.
Practically on the
So this
line,
is
yeah.
gonna be the sidewalk. This is-
And
So
this
over
line,
there,
this
over
is-
there.
So now these people just bought
Is
this
that gonna
property
be a
and think they got all this
Yeah,
land to
so
go with
this,
it and
this
get ready to
fence,
take it.
this little piece of fence gets shifted back, right now it's all the way over, again, just for property line, so we're shifting this.
It's gonna be interesting.
And my pre-existing driveway opening.
Well,
Yeah, what was that you were
This
talking about?
line right here is basically it's in the back corner now, the current owner's are fine
But
with
then
it.
again,
They're gonna bring it
where
this
I go
way.
work.
So you're gonna
So
take,
I can
take
take, I can
this.
do, yeah, so I
So I
can do
don't
that,
see the
because
sun down
my
at 8
existing
o'clock.
driveway opening
Maybe they're
is
coming from racing.
right here.
So whatever.
Charlie Broderick parked my trucks years ago. That was the old driveway right there. And that asphalt comes in like that.
You would think that
And
was
my motorhome,
something that would they
right
would
now
think
it's in
about.
this way,
Yeah.
and rocks all over.
Yeah.
But my motorhome used to go here for the winter.
Traffic control cabinet is
Yeah, and I just wanna see what it's gonna look like, because this is gonna come right up to my property line.
also be.
Well, keep in mind, this is just,
Yeah.
we
Oh, I
don't even
know
have
what
to
you mean,
do this, this is just a
So
paved
it's
acres
just,
to make
you
it
know,
look nice, if you don't want it, we won't do
Like-
it, but.
Well, what's
But
gonna
if you get,
happen?
you get all that water,
No,
sand
hold
washers
on.
in there.
But you can't
With all
put
that
DOT.
pavement,
It's beyond-
that's a dirt road, that's gonna be, it's gonna be a water issue, it's already is a water issue over there.
Yes.
Um,
So,
What I was
going
asking-
downhill.
Going downhill this way.
Yeah.
I mean, Keith did when Keith
Okay,
did
my
the
road is
circle,
downhill,
and he
the
put the
water
leaching
drains down to
fields
my
down.
road, you can see where the
Oh,
sand
you've
comes
got, it's actually
out.
gullies, you know, and gullies in front of, Adrian's, and it's gonna be all rocks and gravel, and all rocks and gravel.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have
Imagine
two
you guys do
guys.
that every day,
It's
that's
bad.
why we get the 2 seasons.
Especially on heavy
Do that
rain.
every day.
And what is considered off
And they've got to go to
Conwell
work to get paid, because they're not.
Which is right here.
right here,
You know, David
This
and
is
Ted
all
last year.
a gravel dirt road, like as is my driveway.
You see, we have no catch basins along here at all.
would
You'll
There's
have
one
one
down
down
the
here.
bottom,
Yeah, way down-
that
yeah,
always
down here.
floods, that always floods.
But the
It's
next-
always
the
lady
next-
yard,
the next
on
catch-
any serious rain, it goes 3 feet deep.
The last catch basin-
Does it look as if it's flooding because they're,
There's no catch
Because,
basin after
because
this.
all my road dirt goes down there to
does the
that.
water
and-
sit for a long time?
No, a
Or
couple
is it?
hours. How long do you say lake yard arm lasts on a good day when we have a big lake? 2 hours, right?
Okay, so I'm thinking this, we were noticing that there's only one grate here, one grate here, which is not much for all this
Yep.
and all
They
this.
can't handle it. If we
Can't
have
uh,
handle it, so
serious
maybe we
rain.
may end up by doubling.
And there was an issue of where Old Colony Lane, where you live, that was never paved.
And that has a grate in it that's buried under stone that doesn't do nothing with the
Oh,
water.
there's not even, so it's buried,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, when the condominiums put the
Right across
gravel
from you
down.
or the other one?
No, the other one's Briar Cliff.
Briar Cliff.
When they redid all that, they covered right over that grate.
That made a lot of sense.
That's about right. That's the existing berm right there, so that's
So-
like half a foot wider. And that-
Now, here's my question, is there any way of swinging that out? This is my only area of concern, is basically that area. I care less about down here.
This is a decent
Whether, even
grant,
if it's a,
basically.
bring the line and the, you know, more like,
I've
I
seen
think
worse.
it's coming.
It's, what are you
Unfortunately.
gonna do?
yeah, I know, I mean, a car is here, waiting to turn, it's like in the line, and they're already doing this, and my fence is curious, I mean, there's really very little berm here, it's big, about that much, it's wider down this way, okay? They're driving over it, they're practically, if my fence was high, you'd be banging their passenger side, their mirror, and I know that there's been a traffic light change, you might get 6 or 8 cars coming. So you sometimes have one car, you're going to another car, but it's there, and now there's going to be right through, and I would think.
Oh, 50,
Let me
okay.
just take a look at this area here, you know, honestly, we were focusing
Okay,
on
I see what you're saying.
here,
You're
trying
like,
to
wow.
avoid.
Ride your bike through
They're trying to avoid it.
I will change my
Yeah, we're fighting this, and that's trying to.
That's my theory, because you have two streets,
I don't think it'll be dramatically, you know, it's currently really tight to begin with, but let me look at the alignment,
So, I mean, it's.
depending on how, where this whole thing goes, but if this is what we end up with.
This is the area where the,
Yeah,
there's the
yeah.
grate right there.
Yeah, right.
Not for 2 lanes.
yeah, I know that's probably what they have to go, the shortest distance between 2 points. But I see it all the time, the bikes stop here, and they shoot over. They usually shoot right to this area where I have nothing right now. That's usually about where they come across. It's pretty much, because
Well, that's what.
it's like if you walk out of a building, cement walkway,
You know.
and then a cement walkway, and what do you see? A footpath right through the grass, and there's no grass on it, you just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, nothing is, of course, not gonna, they're gonna go the path, the shortest path.
92.
By doing this, it kind of delineates at least where they should be going.
Right.
You're not, everybody isn't gonna follow it, the majority probably will,
That she's done.
because this is nice and short over here, and you got your land, like, it's more like established as opposed to right now.
If they could even not, just put it like this and walk
Like
it
the cars are all
side,
Yeah,
you know,
oh, yeah,
because
no, no, I can
right,
agree.
bicycles are gonna come, and they're gonna hit the brakes, because people walk them,
No,
and they're gonna hit.
wait, yeah, that's not.
Because I use that, that's my main door in and
You
out.
see my
I
buddies?
hear what you're saying.
Mr. Carpentier.
I hate to say, 'cause I mean, I've been here since 2003, and I'm year round, and I mean, I see it all. I mean, it's frustrating. And I see Daisy Drive is the start of all the police presence in downtown.
Yeah.
And this road, the new traffic study
And then
just
this
says
is,
that's
you know,
1%
this
of the
is, yeah,
traffic
this is what they're talking about.
is on the
with
street,
You know,
61%.
And I'm hoping, quite
So I
honestly,
can't
with
see
that, one
going
of the
5 more
problems
feet
is, I
in
think,
from here.
when signage coming up.
Because that's gonna be
Conwell
right into
Street
that drive.
on Route 6 should probably change to.
And then
I would
how's
think,
this gonna
encourage
be
people,
retained once
the
you cut it
visitors,
out?
the tourists.
Yeah.
But send them to Champagne. to Champagne.
My neighbor John,
Meant for that.
you know the house up the street across from the hardware store, green trim, light gray shingles, there's 22 Conwell.
Yep.
John owns the main condo, he sold off his other 2 condos he built that are attached to it. He works for Monument.
And
Well, it's-
he said to me last
It's
weekend,
aesthetically,
and I
remember
agree
those
completely,
big
because it's happened to
rocks?
me.
You got a fire
People
hydrant right
pull up,
there.
how do you get to the
The fire
monument?
trucks and everything.
They go down
access
here,
that
then you go
space.
to Bradford,
If
then
everything-
down Bradford, and
This
then,
road is
and the signage on,
So you should
because
consider
you can
that.
have a Champaigner, it's a quick turn on Jerome Smith and up Winslow Street, and there's a monument. Tour buses and everything go this way, only to go down and around, when they could be just going right up.
Stacked on rebar.
And that's again, and the town owns Route 6, we go on Route 6.
He knows more than I do.
Okay, why we don't run this piece, I don't know.
Me neither.
There's a few other straight, well, no, the state owns, the state owns from West Mountain, the state engineer, the rotary at
Get
the
the most bang.
Province Town Inn.
Yeah, they own weird.
They own that weird little,
Focus
you
on
know,
this.
but, you know,
Still
the
won't
signage
hold
out on Route 6, there's no reason the town can't start changing that. We own Route 6. Start pushing the traffic like monument traffic, why does it come up
A
Conwell?
good hard.
Only to go down Bradford Street, only to back up in front of the florist and 141
No, you're right,
Market.
they should push it to Shade Tree.
You know, it should, you know, the monument,
You delayed on the family.
And-
right up Jerome Smith.
And honestly, that
Stone that goes
that
behind it.
exact
Basically just
sentiment
being
has
a-
been, from what I've heard, that is the ultimate goal to do that. Why
We
they
gotta
can't do
have
it immediately, I don't know, I can't answer that, but that has been, this is, I've heard this like 10 times. So-
Getting less car traffic on the street
Part of that.
would be a big positive.
So the study that the James Bond Commission is working on right now, that they'll come out with in January or February, will have a bunch of those recommendations. And I'm pretty sure one of them will be,
Yes.
He wasn't too
let's
happy
resign
about
Route 6 to
hearing
have
about
people come in on Champagne to.
I mean, everybody wants it to work, it's just a balancing act of keeping everybody, you know, happy and the neighborhood livable. And I just see it widening anywhere on the street.
Well,
I see how they come up, it gets even worse. So New York disco boys, boom, 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 the cars. But they're pedal to the metal because they're having a great time in the car while they're driving. And it's crazy, and it's like, no, you are, they need signs to say, entering residential
Well,
neighborhood.
you know why, it's,
Just like that.
it's such a quick transition from Route 6 into it, and look at this.
They come.
Right,
You know,
I know, but, and
it's
widening it
designed
to me
for that.
is just gonna, in their mind,
I mean, the road,
you're not,
I
you're not on the street,
wonder-
you're on a
I wonder
highway.
The road is antiquated because
As-
the state highway was built in 1956.
Yeah.
My grandfather owned it, he owned from the lights.
You own Route 6?
He owned that land.
Oh, the whole thing?
No, from the lights, all the way, when you go on Route 6, from the lights, straight down, on the left, you see the little pond before the hill before the, was it still called Dunes End Campground?
Yeah,
Okay.
trustees of
before that,
reservation.
Trustees or whatever it is, it's a campground,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
My grandfather owned that.
So what did they do? Eminent domain?
Eminent domain.
Could you imagine what that would be?
$500.